Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Omnia Performance Podcast with myself, Fergus Crawley, and...
Myself, Big Jonny Payne.
Big Jonny
I think
Payne.
the last time we did the podcast, we didn't introduce ourselves at all.
No, we didn't. People won't know
who we are.
Who we are.
It says it on the thing.
It does say that there. Yeah, hello, welcome. Great to have you here. I'm looking at the wrong camera. I've just realised. Should be looking at the main cam. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to move around erratically. As we like to do in many places, whilst also lifting weights, because that's what we talk about here. Hybrid training and being in Omni Apparatus, which is being prepared in all things. Today we are going to dissect, unpack, explore the biggest lessons that we have individuals have taken from the year thus far. We are recording this on the 19th of December, which means that there is some time left. There could be some lessons left to learn, but for now, we're going to go back and forth a little bit of a game of lesson tennis, as it's better known.
Is it better known?
Will be now.
Insight ping pong.
Insight ping pong, yeah, okay. Or anything else?
Inside the latest midnight.
Was that singing?
Ping pong.
Was that rapping? Did you just try and rap on a podcast?
I just said the words from a rap.
That was dangerously
Not
close,
quite
Johnny.
rapping.
That was dangerously
I
close.
don't think if you just say the words, you're
there's no
also
recovering
rapping.
from that. If you try and just freestyle rap on a podcast, you make a very clear statement.
I could.
No,
It's
we're
not
not pulling
gonna-
on this
it's not
thread.
gonna do it.
Anyway, if you're new around here, then I apologise. If you're familiar around here, then you're probably wondering when we're going to get started. But you'll know that before we do that, there are a few requests to be made, which is to follow and or subscribe on whatever platform you are listening or watching on, to share this episode or an episode previously with a friend, to rate and or review the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And that's all of the admin required. Thank you very much for being here. I will kick things off by saying that one of the most significant life changes for me occurred this year, which was getting married. Ooh. And the lesson for me is that nothing has changed.
Yeah, well, I suppose you didn't really expect anything to change.
No,
it would be bad if it had.
but the lesson...
Now I've got you.
The lesson really is that I'm very pleased. I'm glad to have very much leveled up, I guess. But from a relationship point of view, from the day-to-day for Erin and I, all that feels different is there feels like there's more of a level of maturity. I feel like when I'm speaking to people, it's to be taken more seriously. If I say my wife, I am viewed... I don't want this to sound like people aren't, but like, I'm married now, look at this. None of that, but it's like it just feels more mature.
8 years, been together, many more. And I think the distinction of saying my wife is really nice, but it is a distinction of you've changed your game slightly.
Yep.
And although nothing changes at home, you don't, you just go home and there's this possibly a deflating. Oh well, that was that then, was it?
That's that, yeah.
But the reality is, you made a wonderful commitment that weekend that you had probably made before anyway, but it was marked in front of family, in front of loved ones, and in a lawful manner, I suppose. Which is significant.
And we have the certificate now. It's arrived in the post.
Did you get it? Yeah.
So I was wondering, was that it? Did we get anything? Do I need to check an
Do
online
I not get a
registry?
badge?
What happens next? Where's my Frosties badge to sew onto my towel? This is bullshit. They didn't actually send a towel badge. So Perth and Kinross Council, why have you not yet responded to my letter of complaint?
Yeah, Falkirk Council sent stickers, badges. The people applauded us for days. There was floats.
I had my nuptials in the wrong region of Scotland, it seems.
You did.
Anyway, speaking of nuptials, how about these nuts? I'm joking.
That's vague.
Oh, fuck. I said these nuts. I meant to say these nups.
Yeah, you screwed that up. Leave that in, Jamie.
I'm ashamed of myself. That was poor. I think I fully plagiarised that from Brooklyn Nine-Nine as well.
What, these nups?
Yeah, I think that's very Jake Peralta of me to say.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but rest in peace, Captain.
Adrian.
Is it Brona?
Bro. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I was sad to see that.
I was
sad to see that. Anyway, I got married. The lesson is I love Erin. I'm very happy with it. Not very much has changed, but we had a fantastic, very heartwarming and wonderful weekend celebrating said marriage. Great. Thought I'd pick up on that, but I guess the big movement forwards for me is obviously the increase in maturity that goes with it in terms of perception, and the stark reality that legally it is a level up. I feel very callous saying this. I feel like I sound like a horrible bastard, but
you've been
it's
practical about it.
It's a huge mark.
There is a lot to be said for it, because we went through the same thing. We've been together, like you guys have, for a significant amount of time before we got married, and we had kids. And we did discuss it before, and what's going to change? We have a bit of a do, we get loads of lovely people around us and all the rest of it, and then it's the same, isn't it? And I had a kind of a man's perspective on it as well, which is the usual, well, this is just a bit of bloody paper, really, at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter. But it's very much...
that bad, Johnny.
That's
don't lump me in with you miserable
I
bastard.
giggle about it and all the rest of it.
Look at me trying to claw my way out of the hole. I dug myself in.
But that was kind of a practical approach to it in my head. Like, it doesn't make much difference, really, does it? This is just, a thing. But it does. It really does. Because, like you say, you cross a line or a kind of a Rubicon and become... You are husband and wife now, and that's significant. Because that is a massive commitment. You're not just kind of playing at it anymore. You are it, and you are what you say you are, and that's a very, very cool thing. I'm excited for you because it's a line in the sand, and from there, the rest of your life is for you guys to explore and grow and all that kind of stuff together. Not that you couldn't do that before, but
Yep.
Afterwards, I'm sure you won't mind me saying, we talked briefly even at the table about how proud you were when you put the ring on.
Yep.
And how significant that felt. And still does. I guarantee that when you and I know you do the same as me, you remove the ring to put the silicon one on during your training.
So significant, I've left it through at the table.
Yeah, or leave it
the table in my office.
Leave it on the table.
This is bad. This is going horribly.
But that ring, when you pick it up,
Agreed.
Put it on, whether you put the silicon one on
100%.
for training or whatever, there's every time you put that on, you go yes. Yeah. So
no, that's it. That wasn't really a lesson. That was more just a significant moment in the year. So.
Where are we now then? I also got married. Nobody knew this, did they?
Interesting.
Revealing it now. No, I didn't. Stupid. I don't know where to go from there, because there's probably nothing that I'm going to say that's going to top.
It's not competition. These are just musings.
Yeah, but it does feel like we peaked with the marriage. Maybe we should have come last, so we could have worked up to it. But I suppose it's the.
I had to mention it first, otherwise it would seem too far down the pecking order.
And we got married. I guess the biggest, we've discussed this on a Modern Mind podcast, but the biggest, most significant thing that happened to me this year was my, I guess not to put too fine a point on it, pint on it would have been better, was my near-death experience in Peru, which was no fun whatsoever. There have been some interesting lessons have come from that, and I think I'm still teasing some of that out, over time. Anybody who doesn't know, I went to take part in a second of a series of races that I was looking to do last year, which was, this race was through the Amazon rainforest, essentially, 250 kilometers through the Amazon rainforest over a few days. But it started at altitude, and before the race even started, at altitude in Cusco, which isn't a massive altitude, but it was enough for it to be significant for my lungs. I developed very early, after just over 24 hours having landed in Cusco, a pulmonary edema, which then became pneumonia. I was admitted to a specialist unit over there. They found me to be actually very seriously ill. I was in and out of, what are they called it something else, but high dependency units, as would be over here, in and out of a hyperbaric chamber. And it took best part of 3 weeks to get home. And then when I did, I ended up in hospital here for a week. When you dress it like that, you think that was pretty rough. And I was really very ill. And then with that came the kind of whole, it should be completely of no interest whatsoever at that point. But I was disappointed not to do what I set out to do, and that was hard to deal with. So it was yes, I'm very ill. I'm seriously ill. There was people who, Ashley and my family and everybody very concerned, and obviously I was so far away they couldn't get to me either, which made it hard. I was also in a room which was half the size of this podcast studio with no windows for all that time, no Wi-Fi, and only one book to read, which got read about 4 times. So I was going a bit stir crazy too.
Can you recite the Nicene Creed word for word now?
Quite possibly. The upshot is I was left with a lot to deal with psychologically. Not to put too fine a point on it. It was all manageable. I was looked after and became well again. There were periods where I was very, very ill, and it could have gone a bit tits for me. But yeah, I think I'm left with a few things still to tease out of that. It's quite scary, but only retrospectively. What was interesting about it, we've discussed this before, was in the moment, during that kind of time there, I didn't really have enough of I couldn't pan out far enough to look at it and go, oh my God, this is actually quite serious. I was too involved in it. And sometimes I was in and out of consciousness as well. So at the time, and I think this is probably the same with most people who go through these kind of experiences, the impact of it, or the seriousness of it, wasn't quite so obvious. But after I got well again, then looking at it, I was able to go, actually, that was a really close shave. And then with that came a lot of kind of evaluating and re-evaluating what was important and what was not. It kind of gives you a nice opportunity to kind of really shuffle your papers a little bit, which I did do. And I was pretty much aligned with who I was and what I wanted to do and all the rest of it, but I'm kind of acutely aware that there are risks.
So if you could round it off, what in 3 sentences max, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned from that experience?
I think that the most positive lesson I've learned is quite how resilient I am. I know I'm good in a bad situation. That was a pretty tough situation, and I was able to manage my emotions and all that kind of stuff quite well. So that's one. It gave me a kind of a good sense of self. I mean, there's no greater test than near-death experiences, is there? I'm also less married to the idea now of needing to complete these things. I realize that was actually tertiary at best. So although I'm very much a fan of attaching myself to challenges, and we do that all the time, the outcome, something I knew anyway, but the outcome or the end result, the destination is not key. I said it a few times, and I'll finish with this rather than rambling. I went there for an adventure.
Exceeded the
yeah, I always do. I went there for an adventure, and I got an adventure.
Yeah.
And I got a really, really, ultimately quite a positive adventure. There's lots of crazy things about that I wouldn't want to experience, but because I experienced them, you learn a lot about yourself. And I get to come home to my family, which was all the sweeter.
Yeah.
For the experience.
You've got a good story.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're unbearable after a few pints talking about it.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Well,
all right.
I was unbearable after a few pints before.
Yeah, it's just true. It's now just the very specific type of unbearable.
Ping. I think you ponged, so I'm pinging.
Cool. You're pinging?
Yeah.
It's mid-afternoon on a Tuesday, Johnny.
I told you I'd reevaluate.
Strongman is very fun, but very stupid. And just to immediately caveat the stupid, tacky caffeine, pain tolerance, the amount of chalk and mess that's created, etc., is just so impractical. But my goodness, what a fun exploration of strength, quote unquote.
Like a great crack, all that.
I did really, really enjoy the process of, over the summer, getting comfortable with and then taking part in a strongman event or series of events, the Donald Dinny Games up in Petark, Aberdeenshire. Very heritage-driven area for strongman, for stonelifting, huge part of Scottish heritage. We obviously did the Dinnies last year in April.
Yeah.
So to go up to the same area.
Was it only last year?
It was only last year, yeah. Watched the Stoltmans lift the Dinnies for the first time. You know, I did lift it before them, no biggie, but it's all right. We lifted it before them, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, keep up, Stoltmans. All 200 kilos or so of you. But nonetheless, having to get comfortable with no experience other than being strong with a barbell within certain parameters, depending on how you look at strength in what metrics. But yeah, reasonably strong with a barbell across a variety of things. How can I apply this to the demands of awkward circular concrete bowls, to awkward handles at different varying heights that you need to hook grip and carry and walk with, to hugging and squeezing big slippery stones and all that sort of stuff. It was really fun to figure that out, and the sort of curiosity and fear that went with how the hell am I going to do this? Where's this going to hurt? Where's it going to be demanding? Am I going to look like an idiot? All of those questions I really, really enjoyed learning. Obviously, having guidance from two of the best at it in the world was a real privilege, and I think that it's still such a novelty to me that my first ever experience with Atlas stones was with Tom Stoltman, quite literally the world's best ever Atlas Stoneser over my shoulder.
Atlas Stoner?
Atlas Stoner. That works, yeah. He loves stones. He bloody loves stones. He'll tell you himself. And yeah, he shifted a 286 kilo stone. He just won motions up to 210 kilos. It's wild.
Insane, isn't it?
Just wild. And having him talk me through in simple terms how to make it move, how to get it from A to B, and biomechanically figuring that out over my shoulder to put 140 up with them to a platform, to then have the confidence to get 105 kilo stone to my shoulder in the event and get over that inertia of, holy shit, am I even going to be able to do a single rep?
It's wild when you think about it, mate. You got, like you say, I don't know how whether people can really tap into what you're describing. Not the stone bit. The fact that Tom Stoltman taught you how to lift stones, and then you went out and lifted stones in a competition. That's like
it's like Usain Bolt teaching you how to sprint.
I was going to say it's like Muhammad Ali get the opportunity to kind of learn how to jab. This is how you jab. This is how you move. This is how you jab. And then before you go into your first boxing, you'd be like,
it's wild.
It's
absolutely wild.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So that's
incredible.
In of itself. That's a great experience.
Yeah. And the main lesson there was I did an event session with Luke, Tom, and Rongo Keane, and just the way events training is done is just proper peak meathead powerlifting behavior that I remember from yesteryear.
Yeah.
Just right, we're doing 2 hard sets, which is like effectively one big max effort set, and then we're resting for half an hour, recaffeinating and doing another movement. It was just really weird. It was like 3 hours of training, and I did like 6 minutes of stuff total. But it was really fun because
cool.
High energy, just really, really big vibe. And yeah, picking things up along the way, feeling the weirdness of the movements, and then being able to apply that in a kilt with a lot of men 30 to 40 kilos heavier than myself.
Yeah.
Really welcoming, really incredible community that really helped me understand the limitations of the event itself. I managed to get through the Donaldini Games without zeroing on any events, which was my only goal, and was 1 meter away from not coming last in one of them, which, being 30 to 40 kilos lighter than everyone else, I was almost very pleased with. But I am also confident that because I went first on that event, maybe had I not gone first on that event, I could have had a better understanding of what a good effort was, or vice versa. Or maybe for them, they knew if they crossed the threshold, they weren't. You never know. The mind games of these things. But
it's still going to be playing mind games.
Strongman is pain tolerance for time.
Yeah.
That's my summary of it.
Yeah, but we talked
and I love it, and I want to do more of it. I bought some tacky. It's
the gym here is riddled with stones now.
Riddle me this.
The great thing about it, you talked on the last podcast when we were talking about the wintering about play, about how training for us and the opportunity to train in different ways, and how we embrace this kind of hybrid style or I guess lifestyle in terms of training anyway. That was a great example of the fact. I mean, you didn't go in there expecting to win. In fact, you went in there with a heavy amount of respect and fear for the fact that you were there, as you say, 30, 40 kilos lighter than the lightest next guy, and getting through the events and not fumbling it and making a bit of a tool of yourself was really the goal. And actually, you did exceptionally well. You might have come last in some events, but I don't think. I think that actually completing those events is almost beyond an ask for most people.
Yeah, because it's an objective measure. It's can you move it or not at a high weight.
The key thing that's come from it, and every time you talk about it, you talk about what fun it was and how mental it was, and like you say about the training and just what a blast it is and how it threw you back to the powerlifting days and all the good things, because it's not powerlifting, but all the good things that were part of powerlifting, which is the let's fucking go and all that kind of stuff. That's all part of it, but ultimately it's as raw as it gets. You're just lifting big heavy slabs of stone and ripping them about the place, and it's great. It's great to watch, mate, and I'm glad you had the opportunity to do it. And I can see in you when you talk about it and the physical state of the gym that it's not over.
It's not. We have a stone platform on the way, and I would like to say here and now, potentially, that my strength goal over the winter is to shift and load a 160 kilo brackets plus stone. That's feeling exciting to me right now. Thought of a 260 deadlift in the next couple of weeks. It's probably there. I just need to sort of taper for it properly, but seems a bit silly to do a full taper for a gym lift, but might do it. Lol. Christmas food loading.
I was going to say
Christmas and 2 weeks of no training, and I'll pull 260.
The best opportunity for surplus
that
you could possibly have.
Maybe a New Year's Eve 260.
The amount of Omnia athletes that we've got sort of planning PBs on the 4th of January is pretty insane.
Well, you know what's wild? I'm joking around here, but my best ever deadlift is 260, and that was conventional. And that was at 102 kilos when I did nothing but powerlifting.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's with no aerobic base underneath it either.
I think conventional, I could probably pull 245, 250 at the moment if I was tapered for 3 weeks, not 2. But if I can pull 261, I would be absolutely over the moon, because that would quite literally be an all-time PB. Which would be absolutely insane, and that's kind of just dawned on me now.
Yeah, but with the aerobic capacity you've got,
and I think a lot of that has come from. I keep bashing my watch off this thing. A lot of that has come from, I think, the hugging strength and upper back and lower back development that I've been missing for so many years from the summer of strongman training. To summarise, tacky is even stickier than you'd expect. It's actually a glue. It's an adhesive.
Yeah, as anybody who can go back and look at your YouTube will attest.
As they see my nipple,
almost come off, and do that kind of oh my god little moment, like fucking hell, his tits is going to come off.
These nips. There we go. Saved it. Was that this podcast or was that the earlier one? That was this one.
Yeah,
okay, good. God, I'm making a mess of this. I should
these nuts.
Yeah,
it went badly.
Damn it. Anyway, I always had in my head that tacky was just like a slightly more aggressive chalk, like a putty that was it just kind of roughed it up, but it is an adhesive. So yeah, chest hair was unwise, and the bruising on my forearms and biceps that went with it was surprising. But nonetheless, strongman's really good fun. I'm looking forward to doing more of it. I'm definitely going to incorporate more of it into my training on a regular basis, and we're going to have the facilities to just have a playground out there to be exactly that, a playground where years and years of strength work and obviously the aerobic base now can be applied in fun ways, which is ultimately why I train for the things that I do and why I haven't yet done a high rocks, for those asking, which is pretty much all of you, because I honestly don't wake up in the morning thinking, you know what, that feels exciting to me. Which is no commentary on the sport or people that do it in any way, shape or form. I think it's a fantastic concept.
If it feels exciting to other people, then fucking I'll go for it.
Yeah, but
that's great. I'm all for it. But
to me, I'd rather run 250 kilometers and lift 160 kilo Atlas stone at the moment. That might change, but for the time being, stop DMing me. No, I'm joking.
I get the same DM.
Please keep DMing me, but that is let the
question.
Let the record
what shoes
show.
Are you wearing?
Yeah, that question. What shoes are you wearing? Yeah, when do you get your hat? Yeah. Anyway, so to summarize, strongman is fun and stupid, but stupid in a childishly playful, fantastic way.
Yeah.
Pong.
You do.
How long have you been sitting on that?
Since the last ping.
Okay, well.
I didn't really listen to anything you said, just hoping you'd say Pong. In fact, to the point at which I'm not entirely sure what the
so you actually haven't spent any... Yeah, okay.
Just thought,
railroading the podcast yet again. How unlike you, Johnny?
Well, you know what I had thought about talking about? Is that even a sentence? Yeah. Are
we okay? We're all over the place.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
It's jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't want us to be another kind of... Peru was a slightly negative story with a couple of little positive blips in it. And jiu-jitsu could quite feasibly be the same kind of negative story, in that one of the big goals for me this year was to get back to jiu-jitsu and really kind of push at it, make that a kind of a key part of my process. And I did get back. I had some great roles and some private sessions with a good friend of mine, Ian Feenan at Foo Dogs. But then my schedule ate it up, and I didn't... I think that the positive reflection is, looking back on it, I could probably and should probably have done more to ensure that was prioritized. The fact that it wasn't and I couldn't tells me something about where the schedule was, and maybe I should do better at managing my time. There are a lot of spinning plates as far as my time is concerned. But having not got to it, I'm feeling the itch more and more. And it's right at the top of the list for me next year, is to really get back into it. So I guess the thought here and the conversation is that although jiu-jitsu is extremely important to me, it really is, it's something that's been part of my life for a long, long time. I've actually been out of that game maybe for the best part of 2 years now. And the longer I am away for it, the longer that elastic stretch gets, and I feel like it's about to ping me back. So I'm excited about the wintering, like I'm excited about the things that we've got planned for later in the year. Next year, I'm really excited about the opportunity to get back to jiu-jitsu, which is maybe a story about next year, but it comes from a lot of reflection this year. So it's good to kind of see those gaps. It's good to kind of be able to look back and go, right, I missed this, I didn't do this. Something else that actually pops up quite a lot in the very same vein that hopefully we're going to do a little bit more of together as well is skateboarding. And we're talking about that as being kind of a fun play, doing things that are important.
And my absolute favourite representation of, you can be doing a kickflip down El Toro, which is a 22 set of stairs in a high school in LA. Yeah. Infamous. Thrasher covers all over the place. I'm not going to do that. No, but if you drop in for the first time or land your first ever kickflip on flat ground, everybody's equally as hyped and everybody's equally as progressive, which I think is awesome. Matter. Yes, absolutely.
And actually, there's the exact parallel with jiu-jitsu. That's why I love jiu-jitsu so much, and skateboarding. I've seen those very, very similar things. Is that exactly as you've just described? You could get your first trick, and it could be really basic to somebody who's got some amazing tricks, but it's the same thing, the same experience. You've just achieved something together. And jiu-jitsu is the same. You could be getting absolutely mauled by some kind of monster who couldn't just play with you. But if you get caught in the right way and ask the right questions, it can be exciting to find out, well, why did that happen? How did it happen? And you learn together. And even if you're the small fish in a big pond, which you probably should be trying to be, the right community, you're always learning. And I'm excited to kind of get back to that community part of things. And not to harp on about the wintering again, we've done a podcast on it, but that's an exciting thing for me. The community stuff. So I think that's where I'm going with it. The jiu-jitsu, skating, touching back to my kind of roots with all those kind of things. It feels like next year is a great opportunity. It's lined up for me. I'm not one to say, let's wait to the new year. I mean, the pieces are in play already. But really getting back to that community aspect of training, which is just, again, this theme of play. It's play, but with lots of friends.
Lots of sweaty men.
I like to play with sweaty men.
And the lesson there as well is let it be clear that the challenges that all of you as athletes and individuals face on a daily basis are challenges that we as individuals face as well. Yeah. Don't let any amount of polished social media content pretend that we are any less sort of fallible than everybody else. We're managing the same challenges and priorities and juggling similar things.
It doesn't make for a good reel to see somebody falling on their face and saying, well, fuck it, I'm not going training today because I can't make it or whatever. But ultimately that's how our lives are, and I guess we have a great platform to be able to reflect on that and to look into our community and say, well, I see that elsewhere, I can do something about that, and hopefully be a little bit of a lamplight for other people, just to say, right, yeah, me too, mate, and then we can talk about jiu-jitsu or skating or whatever. Yep. So a negative start point, I didn't get to it, but that only heightens that need to do so and watch this space. Watch me get tapped out for a whole year.
Happily,
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, it's decisive. Yeah. Fergus of 2023 should listen more intently to Fergus of 2020, because Fergus of 2020 promised himself he would never try and run a sub 5 minute mile ever again. And I've said before, and I will say again, in terms of emotional demand and sheer graft and chewing the stem and getting your head down and working your arse off, all the cliches I can chuck at it, for me, getting to sub 5 minute mile pacing is just unholy.
It's brutal to witness.
Absolutely horrendous.
It's tunnel vision. You have to get really, really, really lasered in on that.
Yeah.
Which means...
And what I actually struggled with on that as well is, we discussed this, is what I like about it is how black and white it is. Yeah. What I dislike about it is how black and white it is. Because every decision you make on a day-to-day basis inputs into, is it the 0.1 of a second that means that you hit that rep or not? If I slept for an hour more last night, if I didn't eat those 3 hobnobs and actually had a bowl of oats this morning, etc., would that have been what made this session better? If I'd had one more glass of water between the hours of 2 and 3 with this session at 3:30, it'd been better. All these things you can hyperfixate on, and that actually became quite overbearing within the context of building out, developing the new office space, which pretty much came at the absolute peak of the training for it. So
Not ideal.
no, it wasn't ideal, but I think being forced to make the training work, and ultimately the training was quite low volume demand, but just stupidly high intensity demand. Fortunately, I didn't need to do a huge amount of work on the deadlift other than hold on to it and get used to deadlifting in sort of running shoes. But the mile, doing 2 or 3 track sessions a week with a few, there was always 1 or 2 real hard efforts over 1200, 800 or 400 that were a proper like empty the tank and then scale back pacing with some rep work after that. Those efforts were just, I mean, it's like 8 to 12 minutes of me being in an absolute hole before I can even come back to a reasonable heart rate to consider moving again, let alone running again. Yeah. And yeah, very rewarding.
Do you think 2026 Fergus is going to listen to
Probably.
2020?
Fergus has shown a consistent pattern of ignoring Fergus and continuing to be a dickhead. So 2026 Fergus will probably also, thus, therefore, ergo, be a dickhead.
I would say so.
But I look forward to it because ultimately I've never actually just said, right, work towards a best effort mile and do it. It's always been compromised by a squat or a deadlift. And this time especially so, because, yeah, I clocked a mile at 4:59, but was aiming to do a deadlift and a mile in under 5 minutes total. Yeah. So therefore I failed at my goal.
Wasn't pretty
impressive. Whilst running a sub 5 minute mile at 210 pounds. So fantastic, but weirdly reframed the goal poorly in my own head. So the lesson for me there really is I need to be selective and phasic with when I put myself in those very specific metric-based black and white goals, because it forces you into a laser tunnel vision mindset where adaptability and flexibility around the day-to-day things, whilst running 2 businesses and creating content and everything that can very much get in the way and chuck fires at you and create variables that you didn't see coming, makes it very difficult to be rigid in just doing the work, because the stuff around the fringes is what can affect the recovery, affect the output, affect the delivery of those sessions that really, really matter. Whereas ultra training, you can just sometimes, if your pace is 1 or 2% slower that day because you're fatigued, you can still get the stimulus and the work done.
Still, the adaptation
is moving you forwards.
I think the good thing about it, though, I mean, I know you're not doing this, but if you were to reflect on how hard it was, and you were to play on that kind of 2020 Fergus talking at 23, you could say, I wish I'd listened, because it was such a lot of hard work, and it created stress in a stressful scenario, putting this office together, all the rest of it. There were maybe that was a bad decision, etc., etc. Actually, the reality is you've just been at the well again. You know, you went in, you went hard, you tempered yourself in the fire, you come away from it, you learned some lessons, you grew from it, and physically you've gained a lot from it. So, as tough as it was, and as much as you would look at it and go, that was a bad idea, and you can reflect on it. And again, I know you're not actually doing this in general, but there's still great positives. Much like the Peru thing, you can look at it and say, God, that was awful, but actually look what I got from it, which has been vast. And you know, I know you don't need me to tell you, a 4:59 mile in amongst all that external stress, which is a factor that we know is huge in that scenario. And also prepping for your wedding and all these other things going on and all that, to do the 4:59, to pull the 500 before you do that, that's baller, mate.
I'm pleased. Yeah, it's just funny how it was briefly framed in my head as a failure when it very much wasn't objectively. So anyway, I've got a consult call in 5 minutes. So pong and be quick.
Yeah, I think that we'll just end on coming back to that community thing again. I think one of the biggest year-long reflections of mine is very much, you're looking at it right now, the podcast studio that we've got. Jamie's on the other side of the camera there. We've got Scott in the other room putting together some banging material. We've built a gym, and we're here almost every day together. Is a very, very different picture to the one that we could have painted last year. That being the case, we might not have looked at it. I think we did. We could look at it and go, no, there are holes here in our productivity and in what we could be doing as a unit, as Omnia. But actually getting here, building it, being part of it, having the hard conversations that you and I have needed to have to make sure that we find ourselves aligned as business partners and as athletes and all that stuff, really does it rips me right back every time. So
the energy is
jiu-jitsu,
just higher as
skating,
well, which makes the day-to-day more
the wind
fulfilling.
train, all that kind of stuff. It comes down to being around the people that you love and sharing ideas, sharing a vision, allowing for the compromise when the compromise needs to come, because we've had to go through that a good bit, and the positivity that comes from that has been life affirming for me, as you know.
Yep.
And
Me too.
through that, I've found myself back in an awesome place. So that's a great way to end the podcast, I think, is to say that we've both been to some dark places. I think we've both taken ourselves there on purpose and found ourselves in some other dark places we didn't expect to go.
Yep.
And brought ourselves together as friends, as business partners, with the other people I mentioned, into a place where we really feel like we're just about to tee off on a really positive 2024. So a reflection on 2023 ends in it just having been a runway for what could be
Springboard.
could be really special, mate.
And externally speaking, environment changes are powerful things.
Yeah, and not to make it a sales pitch, but we want you with us, and that's been fun, is to be able to view it from our perspective and say, look what we're getting from this, just being together, the community aspect. Even though it's only our small little pocketed community, we need to bring more people into that. We need to make sure that our business allows us to invite people in and create a community, and we're excited for that to come, aren't we?
Too right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening, watching, wherever you are. Do all of the podcasty admin stuff. You don't need me to
do it.
Make that any clearer at this point. I would suggest. Thank you for being here. We really do appreciate it. And
goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye.